some portions of Trump's big beautiful bill are already hitting legal roadblocks. Courts are weighing in, lawsuits are piling up, and multiple sections are being challenged right out of the gate. What many people may not realize is that these early legal decisions could quietly reshape how the bill actually functions, from determining what gets funded to deciding which rules stick. If you rely on government programs or simply want to understand what's really changing, this moment matters, because what's unfolding now could drastically influence how this law ends up being implemented. Let's begin with the first major legal challenge: healthcare. Just days after President Trump signed the bill into law, a federal judge in Massachusetts issued a temporary block on one of its key provisions. That section aimed to halt Medicaid funding to Planned Parenthood clinics. Now, here's the critical part. This wasn't a long, drawn-out legal battle. The ruling came almost instantly. In fact, the federal government hadn't even formally responded to the lawsuit yet. The judge, an Obama-era appointee, granted a swift, temporary injunction, stopping the funding cuts before they could take effect. A full hearing is scheduled for July 21st. At that point, the court will decide whether to keep the injunction in place or allow the cuts to proceed. For now, Medicaid dollars continue to flow to Planned Parenthood, but that could change depending on the outcome of the upcoming hearing. For those who depend on Medicaid, or know someone who does, this is a big deal. Planned Parenthood offers far more than just reproductive care. In many rural or underserved communities, it's one of the few places where people can access affordable health services like cancer screenings, blood pressure checks, diabetes testing, and general wellness exams. And these services aren't limited to young people. Seniors and older adults frequently rely on these clinics, especially in areas with limited healthcare infrastructure. This isn't the first time federal Medicaid funding for Planned Parenthood has been targeted. It's long been a hot-button issue in U.S. politics, but what makes this instance different is that the proposed cuts were embedded in a much larger piece of legislation, not a standalone bill. That made it harder to isolate politically, but potentially easier to challenge legally, particularly if those cuts are viewed as violating existing healthcare access protections. The court's decision also sparked a fierce response. Some conservatives called it an example of judges overstepping their authority. Senator Mike Lee even went as far as to suggest that Congress should consider impeaching the judge. Others argue this is precisely what the judiciary is meant to do: intervene when a newly passed law could cause harm without due process or proper warning. If you're wondering what steps to take should the cuts eventually move forward, it's smart to stay in contact with your local clinic. Many will post updates, adjust their operating hours, or release notices if funding shifts. If you help someone with transportation, medical appointments, or paperwork, it's worth checking in early to see whether their provider might be affected. While the healthcare issue made headlines, another part of the bill stirred up controversy in a completely different arena: gun policy. Just days after the bill was signed, gun rights advocates filed a sweeping lawsuit. Their target? A provision that eliminated a long-standing $200 federal tax on certain firearms, namely silencers, short-barreled rifles, and short-barreled shotguns. That tax dates back to the National Firearms Act of 1934, which was passed in response to rising gang violence during the Prohibition era. For nearly a century, the NFA has regulated specific firearm categories through strict requirements like taxation, registration, fingerprinting, and background checks. So what changed? By scrapping the $200 tax, the bill essentially undercut the legal foundation of the NFA. At least that's what the lawsuit claims. For decades, the law's constitutionality has been supported by Congress's power to impose taxes. Remove the tax, and the rest of the law, they argue, becomes legally unstable. Here's how it worked before. If someone wanted to legally own a silencer or other NFA-regulated item, they'd have to pay the tax, register the weapon, submit fingerprints, and pass a federal background check. The process could take months. That tax wasn't just about generating revenue, it was part of a larger system that allowed the government to monitor potentially dangerous weapons. Now imagine that system vanishing. No tax, no registration, no fingerprinting, no waiting period. That's the outcome the lawsuit is aiming for. And they're not just challenging the tax, they want to dismantle the broader regulatory structure as well. And it wasn't just any court they chose to file in. The case was brought in the Northern District of Texas, a venue known for assigning cases to judges appointed by President Trump. That choice wasn't accidental. It was a deliberate legal strategy designed to give the case a better shot at success in a favorable courtroom. For Second Amendment supporters, this may feel like a long overdue course correction. But for those concerned about community safety, especially when it comes to untraceable firearms, it raises serious concerns. Removing the tax might sound minor, but the ripple effects could radically alter how federal gun laws are enforced. And there's an even broader implication. If courts rule that eliminating a tax invalidates the entire law it supported, that reasoning could spread. Other laws that depend on tax structures as their constitutional foundation might come under fire too. So what does all this mean for the big beautiful bill as a whole? First, let's remember how narrowly it passed. In the Senate, it came down to a 51-50 vote, with Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote. In the House, the margin was just 4 votes. When a law squeaks through like that, it's rarely the final word. It's usually the start of a longer battle, and we're already seeing the next phase begin. Environmental groups are preparing to challenge the bill's rollbacks on clean energy incentives. Education advocates are getting ready to contest changes to student aid formulas. There's even early legal talk about questioning the procedural legitimacy of the immigration enforcement funding increase. And this is just the beginning. What's striking is how fast the legal challenges are moving. Some court cases can take months or even years to get traction. But here, decisions are being issued within days of the bill becoming law. That kind of speed shows just how politically charged and legally contested this legislation is. For ordinary Americans, especially retirees and those on fixed incomes, this back and forth in the courts creates a lot of uncertainty. One day a benefit is active, the next day it's paused. One rule says you qualify, another says you might not. That kind of instability makes it hard to plan ahead or to trust the information you're being given. So is the bill officially blocked? In some ways, yes. Certain provisions are temporarily on hold, others are heading to trial, and more lawsuits are likely on the way. The bill may have cleared Congress, but now it's the courts that will determine what stays, what's revised, and what gets struck down entirely. And if you're retired, dependent on public programs, or just trying to stay informed, this is exactly the type of moment to pay close attention. Because it's not just about policy debates in Washington. It's about how those decisions directly impact your budget, your healthcare, and your access to vital services. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Do you believe the courts are overstepping their authority, or are they doing what's necessary to protect the public from hastily passed laws? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this video helped clarify what's going on, feel free to share it with someone else who needs to stay informed. These first court rulings are only the beginning, and I'll be right here, breaking down every step with you as it happens.